Live.
All right, well, good morning and welcome. I am Chair Harding and I'm going to call us to order. Recognizing a quorum of commissioners, I call the July 30th, 2026 meeting of the Cannabis Control Commission to order. This meeting is being held hybrid pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 and is being recorded. Commissioner Delabato, Wilson, and myself are participating in today's meeting. Commissioners' comments and updates. Before I turn it over, I'd like to note for the public, we're going to be running this public hearing a little bit differently than some in the past. The commissioners will be listening to testimony from the public on the emergency regulations that the commission promulgated as a response to the statutory mandate outlined in Chapter 65 of the Acts of 2026. It's a little bit different. We were told we did not have to be here. As you can see, all three of us chose and really wanted to be here to get this input. As this is a public hearing, no quorum is required by the commissioners. If there are any connectivity issues or power outages, not that that's ever happened, the executive director and staff may continue to accept remote testimony or ask that additional comments be submitted in writing. With that, I am now going to turn it over to Chief of Staff Andrew Carter, who will be emceeing today's meeting. And with that, Chief Carter, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, commissioners. So during this hearing, we will be hearing testimony only on Chapter 65 of the Acts of 2026 Emergency Regulations. These are available on our website, linked on today's calendar event, and also where you normally access commission regulations. Before we begin hearing testimony, I would like to remind everyone that this is a hearing that is being live streamed, and there are microphones placed throughout the room. For that reason, we do ask that you please keep side conversations and noise to a minimum. This will ensure that those watching remotely, as well as those in the room, can clearly hear the speakers at the podium. Next slide. In addition to the verbal comments offered today, the Commission is also accepting written comments on these regulations. Those wishing to submit written testimony should email their comments to commission@cccmass.com with the subject line Chapter 65 Emergency Regulations by 5 p.m. today. Now, some housekeeping guidelines for speakers. In order to allow as many people as possible to testify, we will be limiting the testimony to 3 minutes. The Commission asks that speakers use respectful language and to please speak on the topic of the Commission's Chapter 65 emergency regulations. The Commission also encourages speakers to submit their testimony in writing as well. For those wishing to testify who have not signed up in advance, please add your name on the sign-up sheet in the back of the room. First, we will hear from individuals who signed up in advance of the hearing, followed by those who signed up to testify today. Once in-person testimony has concluded, we will begin hearing virtual testimony. If there are elected officials who wish to testify first, they may go. When your name is called, the speakers are invited to come to the podium at the front of the room, introduce themselves, and what entity or organization that they represent. For those testifying virtually, when you hear your name called, the speakers are invited to come off mute, turn their camera on, and introduce themselves and what entity or organization they represent. We will need to take a short 10-minute break for tech to set up prior to the virtual portion of the meeting. Please note that commissioners may ask questions during the testimony, clarifying questions during the testimony, and they may also take notes. I will ask that after the hearing testimony, if commissioners have clarifying questions, that they please raise their hands and let me know. For those who cannot attend the meeting in person today, written testimony again is may be submitted to us at commission@cccmass.com with the written subject line Chapter 65 Emergency Regulations by 5 p.m. today. I will begin by calling the individuals in the order in which they signed up to testify. If someone is not present when their name is called, I will call their name again at the end of the list. After all speakers who are present have given their testimony, I will turn it back over to our chairman.
And I just want to underscore one point. So typically, I have been chairing these meetings. I recognize questions from the other commissioners when they raise their hand. Today, as Andrew said, we will raise our hands if we have clarifying questions and will be recognized by the chief. Not intending to have great debate today. This is really about receiving input, but if there are clarifying questions that any of the commissioners have, then we'll certainly go down that path, but we'll look to be recognized by you, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, with that, I will call up the first speaker. Our first speaker is Ryan Dominguez of the Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition.
He's about 10 minutes away.
Joel.
All right, we will skip Ryan for now, and we will move on to Derek Sanchez. All right, not seeing Derek either.
What if you threw a party and no one came?
No.
Okay, we're over 2.
And I believe now, if there is no one present in person, we will take our 10-minute break to switch over to virtual. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
My birthday.
All right, so now we will turn to our online testimony. So just as a reminder, all right, we will now turn to our online testimony. So as a reminder, when your name is called, the speakers are invited when you hear your name, the speakers are invited to come off mute, to turn their camera on, introduce themselves and what entity or organization they represent. So with that, I will turn to the first name on my list, which would be Scott Salnek at Eastern Cannabis Company. All right, not seeing Scott, so we will move down to Kevin Gilnack.
Morning, Chair Harding, Commissioners Delabato and Wilson, and Chief Carter. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify remotely today. My name is Kevin Gilnack. I'm the Deputy Director of Equitable Opportunities Now, a nonprofit founded after Question 4 passed back in 2016 to advance equitable opportunity in the cannabis industry. We're going to be submitting detailed written comments signed by more than 30 industry leaders and advocates later today, which provide a fuller basis for the recommendations I'm going to summarize for you today. I just want to start by kind of reviewing the public record on ownership limits. It's pretty clear throughout the entire public debate. We had more than 60 industry insiders and advocates sign a letter opposing any expansion and supporting the preservation of the 3 ownership and 10% limits. At the Joint Committee on Cannabis Policy hearing, opposition outnumbered supporters 37 to 15 overall, 23 to 5 among CCC licensees and applicants, and 18 to 1 for social equity businesses. We understand ultimately the legislature sided larger businesses and seeking to get greater market share and seeking to exit the industry, but it didn't repeal or diminish the Commission's enduring responsibility to encourage and promote full participation for communities harmed by the war on drugs. And we are here to urge you to make sure that that mandate guides the implementation of Chapter 65. The letter we're going to be submitting later today has 3 essential asks for safeguarding equity and competition as we implement this new law. First is to require equity and competition review for any 4th, 5th, or 6th retail licenses to evaluate market concentration, local conditions, and proximity to social equity businesses, as well as overlapping investors and related parties, to ensure that any acquisition of a 4th, 5th, or 6th license isn't going to negatively impact your mission to advance equitable participation. Second, require meaningful disclosure and cross-license review of investors, lenders, beneficial owners, controlling rights, and material financial and operational agreements, including purchasing agreements and managed services agreements and leases that may convey opportunities to extract profits or exercise control that isn't fully captured in a statement of somebody's equity ownership. Pair that with rigorous ownership and control audit and protected anonymous complaint portal as contemplated by Chapter 65. And third, make the 6th license exclusivity period outcome-based. The 12-month deadline should be a floor. We urge you to keep those 6 licenses exclusive until at least 3 independent social equity businesses actually receive that 6th retailer license, and provide 12 additional months of exclusivity. At a minimum, non-equity operators should remain ineligible until both the statutory 12-month period is passed and until we have 3 social equity businesses that have taken advantage of it, to ensure that that opportunity that was contemplated by the legislature is actually meaningful for people seeking to take advantage of it. In closing, Chapter 65 is a significant change in the market, and the CCC has an important opportunity to make sure that the additional access to capital that it may provide doesn't lead to accelerated consolidation and control or predatory financing. So I appreciate your comments, your time, and listening to my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, we'll be submitting that letter with additional information to you later today.
Thank you, Kevin. Clarifying questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for being present and showing up and leading things off for us today. You were number 4 on the list, but number 1 in our hearts.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks again for listening. Look forward to you all having a chance to review our letter and happy to engage offline if you have any follow-up questions.
Thanks, Kevin. Just a question. You said at the beginning, you will be submitting feedback from 30 of your members and consolidating the thoughts you just had, plus more detail, correct? Great. We look forward to receiving it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next speaker will be Darnisha Cohen at Safe Life LLC.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I've been a social equity member since 2021. And my journey has been long to get commence operation with my courier license. I originally tried to get a delivery operator license back in 2022 with Framingham. I paid for leasing to lease the property for a year to be told at the end of my lease that the town would not give me an HCA. It didn't have it in any of the regulations. I'm a single mother of 3, and I had to spend over $50,000 to try to fund and get that license, to then pivot to courier license in 2022. And I solidified that license and got commenced operation in 2025 out of Northampton. And it's just been a long journey with trying to get operational and survive in this setting. So I'm here to pretty much ask for also an extension with exclusivity with the licensure, just to be viable in the space as a small business owner. And also just echo what Kevin said about all of the different policies and like moving the pen forward as far as with the cannabis businesses with social equity. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Demisha. And will you be submitting written comment as well, or?
Yes.
Okay,
It will be submitted by Kevin as well.
wonderful. I don't know if it's out of bounds, but first of all, thank you for hanging in there. It sounds like you've had a long road. How are things going now?
So right now I'm still trying to find a retail. I was partnered with a dispensary in Boston in 2025, but that partnership has ended, and it's been pretty hard, you know, just getting like those retails to partner with a social equity member. So I'm just in a waiting phase right now, trying to get partnership to be able to operate my courier license, which I would need a retail to agree to partner with me to deliver their products.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We will now turn to our next speaker, which is Tremana White.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for your time today. I hope you guys can see. My name is Tremana White. I'm a local entrepreneur here in Massachusetts with close ties to the cannabis community. My background is in economics, and that background has shaped how I see this issue. I have a strong bias out there front. I do not believe monopolies and oligopolies are not state or in this industry. We watch what happens when consolidation of resources and opportunity goes unchecked. It is said in our country, the United States, is one of the worst recessions we've ever seen. And I don't want that to watch that story repeat itself here in Massachusetts with cannabis. Massachusetts has already taken a major step. Governor Healy signed the comprehensive cannabis reform into law this year, raising the retail license cap and increasing access to capital across the industry. And that access to capital could be a real win. But the same law also raised the ownership threshold that triggers direct or indirect control review from 10% to 20%. That means someone can now hold up to 19.9% of ownership and a license ever being subject to control limitations at all. That is not a hypothetical risk. That is a rule on the books right now. It is exactly the kind of hidden control gap that lets consolidation happen quietly, while it still looks like compliance on paper. The people of Massachusetts, and I count myself among them, want the state to represent its citizens, not corporations. That's not a slogan, that's the standard that I'm asking you to hold this policy to. So I want to focus on 5 concrete steps. First, the review of the 4th, 5th, and 6th retail licenses, specifically for their effects on equity and competition, not just capital access. More licenses in fewer hands is not progress. Second, require real transparency about investors and financial arrangements, especially now that the ownership threshold has moved to 20%. If we don't know who's actually behind a business, we can't know whether ownership is genuine or a name on paper. Third, conduct a strong ownership and control audit so the state has an accurate picture of who holds power in this industry before this new threshold gets tested at scale. Fourth, implement a protected, anonymous, compliant portal so equity licenses and workers, equity licensees and workers can raise concerns about getting control or coercive arrangements without fear or retaliation. And fifth and finally, support jobs, procurement from equity businesses, reinvestment in public data reporting, so we can actually measure when equity is happening, not just assume that it is. I know I'm not alone in asking for this. Advocates across the state, like many others who spoke before me, including the Equitable Opportunities Now, its partners have been pushing for these exact same protections, regular ownership audits, real investigative authority, and whistleblower protections for people who speak up. This is bigger than just one voice and one hearing room. Massachusetts has this chance to expand this market responsibly or to repeat the mistakes of industries that have led consolidation run unchecked until it was too late or too late to reverse. So let capital in and keep ownership real, give equity licensing control to survive in a bigger, more competitive market, not just a license to exist within it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now turn to our next speaker will be Michael Marion from Bada Bloom Inc.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Marinaro. I'm the owner of Bada Bloom and Bada Room, our delivery operator license. We are a social equity applicant in Massachusetts. I do want to say congratulations to the new board of the Cannabis Control Commission on your new positions. I've been a social equity applicant here for over 5 years. I'm still not operational. I've raised over $3.5 million. I am a vertical operator. I know we're here to speak on the emergency regulations, so quickly, I'll say I am in favor of increasing the purchase limit from 1 ounce to 2 ounces. I was absolutely not in favor of increasing stores for large corporate entities while we haven't even helped social equity. I mean, yes, I have gotten grants. We are very fortunate for our grants. It is in the regulation that we're supposed to be getting 0% interest loans. We're still nowhere near there, where there's no information on it. No one's talking about it. I don't know how we're not looking forward to helping more social equity. We have a 6th license for social equity only for retail. I don't know any social equity applicants that own 3 stores. I don't know how they're going to open 3 more in the next year. So it seems like that regulation there is not really affecting anyone or helping anyone who is social equity. I mean, we are here. I'm a farmer. I've been in this industry for a very long time. I thought the war on drugs that I was in was supposed to be helping me getting into the social equity program. We have really not received much help. I had to go out on my own to raise millions of dollars. I do not come from money. My father was an Italian immigrant who came here when he was 16 years old. And unfortunately, I don't even know if the American dream exists anymore. We do not have an opportunity here that is helping us. We need the commission to step up and help social equity as a whole. I'm very fortunate again that we have received our grants It has kept us going, but I have had to raise millions of dollars, and I am still not near operations. I still need millions of dollars to finish my cultivation built out of a tier 1 cultivation. I am a farmer. I want to grow organic flower and give it to the people of Massachusetts, and I am not having that opportunity. There's corporate entities that are flooding the market with radiated cannabis. Radiated. They put it through a $400,000 radiation machine, and they sell this to the public. And everyone since day one has refused to label the packaging. I don't know why we are still tabling this discussion. If they wanted more dispensaries, we allowed it. That's fine. Let the consumers decide. We need packaging stamped that shows their product was radiated. And when I come online, my product will never have remediation because I designed a facility that doesn't need it. Thank you to the commission. I appreciate you hearing me today.
Thank you. Appreciate the testimony, Michael. And question for you, just to clarify, you mentioned you've been working on this for 5 years. You put $3.5 million in. Are you close to launch? Where are you on your? First of all, thank you for hanging in there.
I am not. I actually have a gentleman that's been helping me since day one, helped me design my facility to be a top-notch indoor agricultural facility that is done and designed correctly. He actually is awaiting his commenced operations right now. So he came online. They actually beat me to it. He started after my project. I still need a couple $1 million. I have to order my grow equipment, and I still need to finish my plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. And it's still a couple $1 million. The way that we design these facilities, they're not designed cheap. And for a tier 1, unfortunately, it's a lot of money to build out. And I'm not even building out my whole 5,000 square foot canopy. I'm building 2,000 square feet because it's what I need to at least be sustainable. I really can't build it much smaller than that. I'm building 2 flowering rooms, my manufacturing, which we specialize in all solventless extract. We do not make anything with solvents. And we have our home delivery that we'll be starting up. We're basically going to be the first true fresh farm stand in Massachusetts, delivering fresh flower to people's front doors. This is non-existent. It has never happened yet. And I refuse to sell. And don't get me wrong, we have plenty of good cultivators now in the past 2 years that have come online. Whereas, in my eyes, 10 to 15, maybe even 20 now that are solid craft small companies that we could sell their product as well. But I need to launch with my product. As a social equity applicant, I was promised since day one that we were going to see loans. These loans were going to supposedly help us. We are not seeing any of that. We have been struggling. To raise money in this industry is not easy. These large companies made it so it's almost impossible for people like me to raise money. And we've still surpassed that. We've raised some, but it's almost the markets are dead. There's no capital to get out there. So we're just looking for some assistance right now. And $1 million loan would help me a lot more than another $200,000 grant. So I hope that we can start moving forward.
Thank you, Michael. Any other clarifying questions, commissioners?
Yeah, just to clarify too with the commission, I paid $38,000 in license fees to date, and I have 2 of my licenses are up already. We have 50% off on our licenses fees. I couldn't imagine if I had to pay 100%. I don't know why social equity applicants even have to pay for renewals for a license for 5 years that are not operational. So maybe there's something that we can show for applicants behind me, because I'm hoping to be in operations within the next year. But maybe the people behind me won't have to keep renewing their licenses for $5,000 out of whack, because it's not feasible to be paying licensing fees as well. And thank you so much. I appreciate everyone to allow me to speak today.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Our next speaker is Lucas Thayer, Apple Guy Flowers.
Congratulations. I'll echo my colleague Michael on my congratulations of your recent appointment by the governor to your positions as a commission. And I do look forward to the opportunity to meet you in person and bring my signature business card, which is a box of apples, to your room.
Cool.
And thank you for hosting this hearing today to discuss, after the fact, your implementation of the legislature's laws that they passed recently related to possession limit increase, purchase limit increase, and license cap increase and dilution in percentages. I will echo my colleague Kevin Gilnack in his extreme opposition to that license cap increase. And in the request for exclusivity extension for social equity operators. Sorry, I should introduce myself a little better. My company is Applegate Flowers LLC. I have a social equity provisional license, which I've held this provisional license since 2023. So I've been paying renewal fees, just like Michael Marinaro. I've been paying renewal fees year after year for a provisional license that has stayed provisional for a long time. I'll talk to you guys later about that issue. And I am a grant recipient, and I've got issues with that as well, which we're not here to discuss today. But the grant program needs some serious reform and adjustment, and also needs some increased funding for that EOED grant program for the social equity operators. Really, in general, there needs to be a lot more work done for social equity operators. Social equity operators have been left behind in the dust in this industry for a long time. We've been promised in a lot of ways to have the wrongs of the war on drugs righted. And social equity operator is a funny way of saying we were put in a cage at gunpoint by an employee of the state of Massachusetts. So when we look at social equity operators, think about the trauma that is involved with being put in a cage at gunpoint by an employee of the state of Massachusetts for having too much cannabis. That's where we are. Is these people were wronged in a big way by Massachusetts, and we're trying to right these wrongs by giving social equity operators a little bit more of an advantage. That's why we get the 50% license fee discount. By the way, we shouldn't be paying license fees, especially if we're not operational. So you can, with the stroke of a pen, remove those license fee renewal fees for provisional license operators, especially social equity provisional license operators. If we're struggling to get open, it's for a reason of usually financing. Social equity operators can't get financing in the normal way because then we lose our social equity status. We have this precious social equity status, which is a double-edged sword. It's helpful because it gives us an advantage in the license application process, but it gives us a disadvantage in our ability to seek funding for our businesses. I do applaud one aspect of the recent law passed by the legislature and policy implemented by this commission, which is the possession limit increase and purchase limit increase from 1 ounce to 2 ounces. And during the process of deliberating these bills, I was certainly in the State House every month advocating for an increase of the possession limit to be 16 ounces, not 2. So the 2 ounce increase is a good start, but we can go a lot further than that. And I can go to a liquor store and buy 16 bottles of vodka. I can buy as many bottles of vodka as I can fit in my car, or as many as I can fit on my credit card. But the case is not this way for cannabis. I'm now limited as an adult to buying and possessing only 2 ounces. And that's translated down in concentrates to a ridiculous algorithm that's 10 grams of concentrate, which is way too little for someone who has a need for consuming concentrate or a palate where they want to have 15 different varieties. You can't go taste 15 grams of concentrate because the possession and purchase limits are absurdly low. So we can increase that certainly. But more importantly, that license cap increase that allows for big businesses to just get bigger while social equity operators are really left behind in the dust can have some more oversight and some more rethinking, I think.
Lucas?
I believe it was a mistake on the part of the legislature. I try to
Lucas?
only ask one board to do what they can do, and I know the legislature is really the demon here that increased that license cap increase, and not you guys. You're just doing
Lucas?
and I get that.
Lucas, we are at.
Say that 6th license really should be exclusive for social equity operators for perpetuity. And like my colleagues before me said, it's kind of absurd to even suggest that a social equity operator would ever have enough money to open 6 stores. There are no social equity operators now that have 3 stores, and there's certainly no social equity operators
Lucas?
successful enough to have aspirations to open 6 stores.
Lucas, we are at time.
It doesn't really make any sense in practice unless you actually help social equity operators in a more meaningful way. With that, I'll yield my time. And I did also want to mention I'm also the clerk of the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition. We're hosting an event called the Boston Freedom Rally the third weekend of September, September 18th and 19th. And I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Lucas. So with that, that is our virtual sign up. So we will need about 5 minutes to flip the room to finish with our in-person testimony. All right. We are now returning to our in-person speakers. As a reminder, when your name is called, the speakers are invited to come to the podium at the front of the room, introduce themselves and what entity or organization you represent. Our first speaker is Ryan Dominguez of the Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition.
Hello, hello. All right, good morning, Chair, Commissioners, and CCC staff. Apologies for my tardiness this morning and getting you guys started a little bit later, but had some traffic coming from Boston. But with that said, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to testify in front of you today. I'm from the Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition. As Andrew has said, we are the largest trade association for the cannabis industry. We represent over 100 licensees now, representing every license type. The emergency regs that you all have pushed forth, I think the MCC is very grateful for the efficiency that you all have started to roll that out with. I think going from the April 19th purchase limit increase to the emergency regs that you all just submitted, we're starting to see the impacts of that already. We're seeing folks in the industry, retailers specifically, see their basket sizes going up about 10% because of that purchase limit increase. Going on, some of these different conferences like Ignited in Chicago, I think there's also a lot of interest now in Massachusetts, again, from investors, bankers, et cetera, who see new opportunities because of the fact that they've increased the retail license cap as well as the equity joint venture percentage. Within the legislature, we did push as part of our legislative agenda, the retail license cap increase and the increase to the equity joint venture percentage. A lot of that was based in our conversations across the industry for operators who are just struggling to keep their doors open. And as you've heard, the access to capital is probably one of the hardest things for people to either get across the finish line to open or to remain financially viable and potentially scale up. So these two things in conjunction were different policies that we thought would help bring new investment into Massachusetts. I think they looked at the 20% increase specifically as an opportunity for folks to kind of fill in the gaps. It's not going to get you all the way open, but if you pair 20% equity in terms of investments with the social equity trust fund, as well as other things that you've been able to raise, that actually might get you there. And then similarly with the retail license cap, we thought that for distressed assets that are just holding on, this might be a great off-ramp for them to be able to save, the life savings that they put into their businesses or the 401ks of their community members, et cetera. And then in other opportunities, it's not you trying to, get up to 6. This also gives you opportunities for mergers. So you don't have to do it alone. If you have 1 or 2 stores, another person has a couple stores, now you can merge with them and become more financially viable to be able to compete with some of the vertically integrated operators, some of the MSOs, et cetera. So just wanted to provide some of that background into the policies that we're pushing forth, although I recognize that, they have strong feelings on both sides. One thing I did want to bring up today around the Chapter 65 regulations specifically was your determination around the direct or indirect control persons or entities, specifically when it relates to the 20% increase in equity joint ventures. I think that you all have pointed to a definition within the statute that notes a controlling person has about 10% of controlling interest, et cetera. And I do think that is not the intent of the legislature. They wanted to increase it to a 20% threshold to ensure that folks are able to get the investments that they need while also not affecting the people who are investing in them. So a lot of the folks who may be investing in them are folks like, people who may have 3 stores, et cetera. And I know that this may not be an issue currently as folks aren't getting that 4th, 5th, and 6th store. So the retail license cap may not be hit. But this is something that we may want to address now so we don't have to go back to it in the future. I do agree with the other side that we do have to put some guardrails and protections in place. As you may have noticed in the law that was passed, Section 59 of Chapter 65 allows that not later than 12 months after the effective date of the act, the commission shall conduct a targeted audit and compliance review of marijuana establishments and medical marijuana establishments to evaluate adherence to ownership and control limitations. That's something that we definitely support. While the retail license cap, gets you to 6, which is 6 out of 400, it's only like 1.5% of, the total market. We don't want everybody controlling 20% of 300 businesses, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of things that you all should be putting into place in terms of audit and review from the moment that you're opening up some of these applications. And I do think that retail licenses specifically are going to be the focus. So that is also where you can focus a lot of your audit. And, like Kevin had mentioned previously, there are certain things that you can look for within some of these managing agreements. And in the comments that we have submitted written, both from Foley as well as from the MCC, we'll get into, some more of the details of things that you all can do there. And then lastly, I just want to say with the purchase limits piece, and I think Lucas was talking a little bit about this, but with the purchase limit increase, we focus a lot on flower, being able to buy more flower in the market. There are certain SKUs, certain products that I do think we need to look at dosing when it comes to the purchase limits. There are things like beverages currently. If you were to buy, the equivalency of 2 ounces of beverages, you're coming out of the store with like 10 cases. And I think just like for efficiency wise and actually, allowing some of our beverage operators to be able to compete and actually benefit from a 2-ounce increase, we should be looking at dosing, potentially increasing the 5 milligram THC limit within beverages to 10 milligrams, as you've seen happen in multiple other states. I think, and similarly, we can look at that with edibles, which are currently, I think, at like 0.5 or something like that. We can get that up to 1 gram of THC per edible, which is happening in multiple other states. And I think a good way to think about this is like if you had the same restrictions on flower, imagine having to buy your 2 ounces in basically 1 gram intervals. Like you would have to, one, if it's not cost effective, you're using more packaging, et cetera. But we do need to reevaluate maybe some of our dosing now that we've increased the purchase. So I'll stop it there.
Yes, we are at time, Ryan. And will you be submitting your comments in writing as well?
Yes.
Excellent. Clarifying questions?
I have one, Mr. Chair. Brian, I just want to take a second and go back to what you were saying about the ownership interest. So under the state law, there's a definition of controlling person that sets it at 10%. But that only basically applies to our background checks. And I just wanted, I think, if I understand what you said correctly, it was to make sure that make sure that we're delineating that and that the 20% applies as we're talking about people getting up to the new license cap limit. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, exactly. So our letter will specifically outline that within your definition of person or entity having direct or indirect control, that you basically cross out 10% in subsection B as well as section D6 to move from 10% to 20% on each of those to just match with the legislative intent. And then also with the controlling person controlling interest that is defined within the statute, that is not towards anything, like you said, besides the background check. And I think the legislative intent, if they wanted it to match with controlling person as is defined there, they would have put that into Chapter 65. So they understand what definitions were included in the statute. And so their intent isn't to have this match up with controlling person. And both me as well as Foley have kind of explained that in more detail within the written comments.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you driving out.
And then our last in-person testimony would be Derek Sanchez, who is not present. All right, well, that concludes our testimony, I would like to remind everyone that for those who cannot attend the public meeting in person today, or virtually, that written testimony regarding Chapter 65 emergency regulations may be submitted to commission@cccmass.com with the subject Chapter 65 emergency regs by 5 p.m. today. We would also encourage all of our speakers to follow up on their testimony and submit it in writing as well. And with that, I will, this concludes today's public hearing. Thank you all for your testimony. And with that, I will turn the meeting back over to Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew, for helping to officiate today, and appreciate all the input from those that were here in person. Thank you, Ryan. Those that came online, appreciate you. Yes, and please get your thoughts in writing into us today. That would be incredibly helpful, just to make sure that we heard what we believe we heard. It's an important part of the process. You know, we had to move with haste on the Chapter 65. That's why we moved toward emergency regs. This is an important part of that process to make sure we're gathering that input. So again, really appreciate it. More to come. We've got a busy rest of the summer and even busier fall as we move forward. So stay tuned, watch our calendar on the website, and you'll hear more. And I think with that, we will break. Thanks, everyone.